Hello, everybody. Whoa, oh, oh.
You will.
You absolutely will. You're going to have an eating disorder and you'll get fat. And then when you get fat, you can join one of my body positivity groups and we'll talk about how you can accept yourself at any size despite your type 2 diabetes and despite your high risk of coronary vascular disease. And then when you die, we'll all come to your funeral and we'll make sure to donate to the cause of body positivity.
You're just trying to ensure that you have clients forever. Make their mom create them, have some eating disorders, and that's wild. Did you have a big response say that?
So the overwhelming majority of people that answered that poll actually said that, I think it was 80-something%. So
said what?
Said that weighing food does not contribute to eating disorders. So I thought that was actually relatively positive. But then the reason why I went on that rant was because a woman had posted herself weighing an apple and peanut butter, and she was doing so because she's in an actual bulk. She's trying to put on weight and muscle, and she's trying to eat more. She's very, very lean. And she talked about like, well, I do this in front of my kids, and she's 6, and she sometimes asks me questions about it. And I tell her I'm doing it because mommy needs more protein and everything else, which I thought was great context. And the amount of people that were just so fucking nasty to her in the comments about like how you're going to fuck up your kid and like, how dare you do this in front of your child?
And then there was even comments talking about, you said so that you eat enough, but really it's just so that you don't eat too much, like totally changing what her actual goal is in the comments. I'm like,
so
I understand.
We have a woman on right now who's got 2 and 2.7 children.
Yes.
Is it about 0.7 at this point?
Yeah, 3 months left. I'm not good at math.
Okay, so we're like 2.6. Ooh,
ew,
devil.
We don't let pregnant people on here. We're the patriarchy.
I know, it's so disgusting.
Ew.
Aram won't even let me send him progress pictures. He's like, ew.
Yeah, stop that. God, you're so grotesque.
I have a friend, more of an acquaintance now. He's a buddy I used to work with, and we were close. He was super, super turned on by pregnant women. That was like his.
There's a lot of guys that have that pregnant fetish.
I missed my calling. An OnlyFans about 2 babies ago, I wouldn't have to coach one person for the rest of my life.
You should have started one this time around. I don't know why you didn't. We'll have to talk to Matt Park and incorporate that into the TRM training. How to leverage pregnant OnlyFans content. So CJ, do we want to bore the crowd with your amazing story of collegiate soccer accomplishments and how your parents starved you and told you were fat your whole life and that's why you're so disciplined?
No, I'm washed up. That's in the past. I can't even. The women are playing right now in the Olympics, and I can't even watch it because I'm still spiteful at age 35.
That you didn't make it to the Olympics?
I did, and then I blew out my knee, so I got dropped from the roster.
Oh, you were actually on the Olympic roster?
Yeah.
Really? So you could have been next to what's her name? God, who was the big soccer player of that era?
I can't remember her name.
I mean, Alex Morgan is a little bit younger.
Yes,
than me.
She's younger than you though.
Only by 2 years, but yeah. But
wow, so we have almost an Olympian with us today.
Almost. Didn't make it.
It's incredible. Like we're in the presence of greatness right here.
It really brought me far. I'm teaching high school history.
I live on Long Island and I parent 2.5 children with one adult.
That's appropriate though. You're teaching history, yet you're stuck in the past with the injury.
Way to live in the past. Speaking of history, do you guys want to hear about how I barely made the Olympic team and couldn't hack it?
Because I was being starved by my parents, so I didn't have enough nutrients. That's why my knee blew out.
That's exactly
it. Said when I played well enough.
So I think, and we've talked about this before because CJ is a client of mine. She's been on my Zooms and she's spoken about her experience. And I don't think that it's fair to assess clients based on what we're capable of. And I think coaches make that mistake all the time. And sometimes it's frustrating for us. It's like, well, this is so easy for us. Why can't it be easy for you? I want to really dive into the background on how you grew up with the structure, with the discipline, with the rules and regulations in place, how that led you to then be able to adopt all those same practices in your life and how you don't find them disordered and you don't find them disruptive because that's just the way you live. So talk about what life was like when you were a kid, what the home life was like, what eating was like, what sports routines were like, because I think that's really important to shape people's behavior.
Yeah, so I'm an only child of two like pretty athletic parents. We don't give my mom enough credit because my dad played in the NFL for a couple seasons, but he also blew out his knee. So he was the real shining star. And my mom was like most athletic in high school. So we pretend she's like, can't even walk a straight line, but pretty athletic parents, only child. And I was put into sports pretty early on, and it was the center like of my life. My dad had me doing CrossFit before CrossFit was a thing. He literally he put a painter's chalk on my hand when I was little and would have me like test my vertical jump in the basement, like that blue chalk that you smack with the line. That was how we tested my vertical jump. It was not very high. I felt like I was flying, but no, it was not.
She broke her nose 3 times running into the wall.
Yeah, didn't really. My vertical jump was not my strong point. I was bench pressing at age 12 downstairs with him. I loved it, but he made boxes for me to jump on every night before bed. We did a minute of push-ups, a minute of sit-ups. He wrote it in a book. He kept track.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty legit. I would wake up before school, go run with him. He would write down in the same book, which I still have. Every day I would go out and practice on my own. What I would do, made sure I logged it. When he got mad at me, he wouldn't do it. I would have to write it myself. That was his silent treatment. And I mean, they were great. They did bring me everywhere, and I wanted to impress them. I was a daddy's girl from the second I can remember. I mean, one of my stories that I always tell is they brought me to a private school to go to kindergarten, I think it was, when I was 3. You don't go to kindergarten until you're 5. And they're like, yeah, no, she needs to go to school. They're like, she can't even come until she's potty trained. And my dad was like, she'll be back tomorrow. They're like, no, sir, till she's potty trained. And he's like, she'll be back tomorrow. And I was potty trained in one fucking day.
Oh my God.
I just followed direction from him from the second I was born. I don't know if it's the German in him and me, but we are.
Yeah, it sounds like my mother right now. I'm getting flashbacks.
Yeah, there you go. And sports was just being good at whatever you did was huge in my house. Your name on a piece of paper, you had pride in that. So whether it was school, whether it was me playing basketball, which I wasn't good at, I needed to do the best that I could. Effort was, I was never the smartest kid in school, but I never missed a homework. I made sure I gave a ton of effort. And there's some stories where, some parents probably shake their head, but left at a tournament when I was 13 years old. I didn't play well enough, just sat on my water bottle and waited for a friend to eventually come back to watch their older sibling play. And I was still sitting there. Then certain dinners not being made if I didn't play well enough. They were not easy on me. It was hard. And the fact that I was an only child, I didn't have any other people to talk to. Stuffed animals were a big part of my life. They were my friends. And
still are to this day.
Still are, absolutely. My son has them. I wonder why. And yes, food was never my mother was never a dieter, but she is very, very thin. She would have a Triscuit with turkey on it. My dad is petrified of being overweight. He eats one meal a day still. From the day I've known him, he eats dinner. He'll have an apple at noon and he eats a big ass dinner, but they are clearly not repulsed, but they look at overweight people and not fit people as weaker people. And they never wanted to do that. My dad has 2 overweight sisters and he knew that he had possibility of falling into that. So he made sure it didn't happen. Another story that I tell is that my friends were all fucking 5'10" and 120 pounds. I'm 5'3". So I picked the tallest, leanest people to hang out with. And we're all in the parking lot. And my dad rolls up and he's like, oh, Case, look at that car. The license plate's your name, because it was CJ. And then it was 9,422, 9472. He's like, oh, and it's your weight, to a high school girl, freshman girl, in front of all her friends, right?
And the fact that you clearly remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Shows the impact.
Yeah, they would roast me in front of everybody. If I was walking around the house without shoes on, they'd be like, are you an elephant? The whole fucking house is shaking. So
Jesus.
They're very honest, and well, not even honest. I was never big, but they didn't worry about, me getting upset or just saying things that would hurt my feelings. And again, my mom wasn't a dieter and I wasn't restricted, but comments were always made. And until I was 21, I followed a routine. I was eating healthy practices were labeled for me. Weights were I had to go to the weight room at this time, practice at this time. I graduated at 21 from sports. And then I quickly quickly put on a lot of weight. It was the first time in 21 years that I didn't have a regimented schedule with people looking at what I eat, looking at how much I move, and I gained weight fast. That's what kind of brought me into this. But my family was always routine. We also lived very under our means. I think I told Aram last podcast that our oven broke when I was 12 years old. I'm now 35. My parents do not have a new oven yet. By choice.
I would do that. I would do that with a dishwasher, but probably not an oven.
We never even had a dishwasher. So
I
like
hate
that
the
wasn't
dishwasher. What a waste of space.
It's a drying rack.
I hate just clean your dishes each day and put it away.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
But I definitely had a different upbringing than most. But I would not change anything for a second with how I ended up. I think it was huge in the adult I ended up. I'm sure I could have had more possible trauma attached to it, but I'm very, very grateful for the discipline and the motivation and the pride aspect that they instilled in me from when I was little. And that's why I was able to achieve certain things I did. It was never because I was forced to. I just wanted to impress them. I have a way about carrying myself. And like Aram kind of said, it took me a little while to realize that wasn't just in everyone. Right?
Now, any potential downsides? Because people will hear that story and they'll hear like the restricting dinner if you didn't do well, or your father leaving you on a fucking bucket at the game because you sucked and he was embarrassed by how awful you were. Which that's happened to me too. My father just stopped coming to football games because he didn't understand it,
and you didn't get playing time,
and I didn't play. So he's like, "Why the fuck am I coming to watch you sit on the bench? I could go be at work." A lot of people would hear that story and be like, oh my God, how is this person still functioning as a human being? Why is she not in years and years of cognitive behavioral therapy and part of a support group? And she's a survivor of this awful situation. But here you are as a very well-adjusted human being with 2 kids and a husband and multiple businesses and a school teacher, like seemingly fine. Do you see any potential? Were there any like leftover downsides of that type of an upbringing? Did you ever battle with anything psychologically at all?
Not really. I mean, so I am in therapy now, and I have said, like, I do love chaos. I love being busy. I love a million things on my plate. And I've been told that's because I don't like to deal and sit with things. But if that's the worst of this, then I'm okay with that, right? If my brain is spinning a little bit before bed because I've been running around all day, I'm okay with it. I do think the downside is maybe projecting, right? Like I expect people to kind of be in that mindset, even like my own husband sometimes. I don't really understand like why you aren't like, how do you have time to sit? Like
loser.
What's going on? Like
I was just sitting out back for like an hour and a half before we hopped on here. It was fantastic.
I mean, him grew up very different. Like he's from an Italian family, he was
taken care of. He was taken care of.
He's never did laundry a day of his life.
He got second and third servings until he exploded.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I bought a house at 26 years old, and that's when he started to date me, and he moved in from his parents' house. Like he segued right into, but honestly, I mean, maybe if I was to dig deeper in a therapy session or something, but I really don't think so. And I guess it is because my parents probably did do a good job of showing me why they made those choices. Maybe they couldn't justify leaving me on a fucking bucket, but like for the most part, it was because it was paying off. Like, look at all we're doing. Like, you're succeeding in these things. You're growing as a human. You're traveling the world playing soccer. You don't have 1 ounce of student loans because you got a full ride to school.
To Duke, by the way.
What?
To Duke, by the way. Not just any school, to Duke.
Yeah. Which, again, led me to a high school history teacher.
But still, like that's...
One of the women
when I was 15, I had braces on. I went down. I was like, yeah, sure, this is great.
It's funny. Our valedictorian teaches at the high school I teach at.
Oh, that's awesome.
Really?
I'm like, and I'll talk about this stuff with the students. Like, it doesn't matter how great you do as a student. It's like, pursue what you want to. And she teaches dance. She's a dance teacher, and she was the valedictorian.
Damn.
And it's like, hey, this is awesome. What makes her happy.
Yeah.
Do your thing. It doesn't matter. All these things now don't matter. Casey, how old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah.
35.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe you'll uncover and unpack some more stuff over the next 10 years.
As I'm raising my kids, we'll see.
But I think that this whole story and tying into like that post that people were hating on that Ram referenced 2 months ago, since that's when this will come out. It's not necessarily the actions that the parent's doing. I mean, you see people who are stereotypically terrible parents, alcoholics, they're a disaster, not there for their kid at all, and the kid becomes a superhero because of that situation. You have parents who are there, super supportive, understanding, giving you all kinds of confidence, and then the kid's a mess because they grow up and they don't have somebody as a cheerleader anymore. It's like you just can, as a parent, on this topic of do you weigh your food or not, do what you think is best for you. And like you just said, explaining the why. Right. I think the problem is all those people that responded to that post, they were weighing stuff or their parents were weighing stuff. And it was, I'm fat. That's why I'm weighing it.
Yep.
Right. What's the narrative behind that action that's going on?
Yeah. I mean, nobody would, if you're in financial trouble and you recommended creating a budget, nobody would say that this is going to cause disordered relationship with money and an obsession with money. Yeah. It's a necessary thing to get out of the situation that you're in. So it's always crazy to me when people are saying this is automatically going to lead to that. No, some people, they shouldn't weigh their stuff because of their issues. And hopefully they get to a place where they can, if it's a beneficial tool for them. But
that's the thing is like, it needs to be recognized as a tool for a job. And how much runway in your journey do you have left to where if you haven't deployed that tool yet, and that's the only thing left, then if that's what you're afraid of and that's what's keeping you from results, then you got to do some unpacking and figure out how you can incorporate that into your lifestyle, because you don't get to go further down the road unless you involve some level of precision. Because let's say, like for example, somebody's 135 pounds as a woman, which, right. And she's like, I want to lose weight, which to me, I've had this happen to me where multiple phone calls like, hey, I want to lose. And they reference some dumb number like 12 pounds and they're 135 pounds. Yeah. I immediately say like, this is a sick human being. Yeah. Like that's how I can, like, to me, if you're 135 pounds and you want to lose 12 pounds, and I know you're like 5'4", 5'5", like if you were 5 foot nothing, maybe, but if you're like in the mid fives and you want to lose that much weight, that's going to really show up. Like you're going to look like a fucking cancer patient at that point. So to me, what's more disordered? That woman walking around her kitchen, her living room, her bathroom, constantly saying she's fat, picking herself apart in front of her kids, restricting her own food, saying this is good, this is bad, binging, overeating, versus the mom who's like, I'm going to put this on a scale so I know how much protein I'm eating. I'm going to put this on a scale so I know that I don't overeat on fat and go over on my calories. And I'm going to explain to my children where their calories are coming from, because nobody else is going to teach them this stuff.
Yeah, even simply if it's just, hey, this is because the serving size.
Yeah. That's it.
And like that's how the amount of people that don't even know what a serving size is.
No.
Oh God, I'll never forget the first pasta one. Whew.
The first what?
Oh God, pasta.
My serving size.
Oh yeah, like the circle in the thing.
Horrible.
The circle in the claw scoop.
Worst.
That's one
and like
serving.
just think about it in like reference to anything else. Imagine like checking out on Amazon without looking at any prices.
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to pick all these things, or going to the grocery store and not looking at any price. Like the first thing you do is look at a price tag. The first thing you do is audit. So why with food and food is that going to cause disordered eating? But like with every other aspect in life, we look at numbers. We do audit.
When you're cooking, you look at numbers. It's like, hey, bake this cake, but don't measure
no
the amount of
and that's
whatever has to go into it.
So
disordered.
One of the people that commented on the post, and she left this very long paragraph, and she actually had to mention all of her credentials and all of her experience and how she's in the emotional eating world and how she's helped disordered eating and how she helps children with disordered eating. So she made it very, very well known that this is her expertise. And then upon further investigation of her profile, she's part of something called, oh God, I forgot what it was, but it's pretty ridiculous. It's actually, it's called she's a certified body trust professional. So there's a group,
I think she created that.
So it's a certification
herself.
It's a certification you can get. It's comes in 3 different price points, and it's a 14 module course, and it teaches you how to accept yourself at any size.
It's like the kids that wear the FBI shirts, but it says like female body inspector. That's what she just created.
Yeah.
So
I feel like whenever I see like a long response, like what you're describing, even though you didn't give any detail and you don't have to, because we could all imagine it, I just want to respond, okay.
That's where my first thing was. But then I'm like, okay, let me give her a little bit of a pushback, but also acknowledge that what she said wasn't wrong. And I said to her, why is it that it's okay for mom and daughter to pull the scale out to make sure that the cake doesn't get fucked up. But the second mom brings out a scale, in any other context, it's now applying morality to food. The scale doesn't determine whether the food is good or bad. The scale shows you how much of that food you're eating. That's all it's doing, is it's showing you a number. The same way that you obsess about how much you weigh on the scale, it's showing you the same exact data, whether it's an apple, whether it's a piece of meatloaf, whatever it is. And then the people in the comment section were like, well, why are you weighing the apple? The apple's not going to make you fat. You're missing the point. You didn't read this woman's comment, which very distinctly told you why.
Yeah,
why
she wasn't concerned with the apple. It was, I just had put it on the plate on the scale and then put the peanut butter on top. Like,
and it's not. And if you're going to go through the process of tracking food, it's not like you're just arbitrarily selecting certain things to track and other things you just don't do it. It's not just a selective thing. It would be like saying sometimes I pay attention to my speedometer, but other times it just doesn't matter. I'm just going to intuitively drive as fast as I want.
You're like, if I sometimes don't hit my kid, right? Or like, I sometimes don't. I remember that's one of the first things I saw, and it's such a good point. Like, you know what that means? That means you like don't do it.
Yeah, I put a post, like, I feel like it was a while ago.
It was
like pretty good. Yeah, pretty good.
Pretty good. That was it. Yeah.
I do a pretty good job of not beating my kids.
Right.
I do a pretty good job of showing up to work on time.
Yeah.
I'm doing okay, not cheating on my wife sometimes.
Yeah, I do a pretty good job of being
it's
loyal.
okay. Yeah.
I saw a woman on Facebook today. She wrote, like, I'm on like all those Facebook moms groups that just, they're so painful, but I need to be on them. I know.
Because it's the chaos that you're looking for in life.
It is.
Yeah. You described earlier.
So I don't deal with myself. I make me feel better. Yeah. But she was like, I need help. Like, I work out 4 times a week. I eat, quote unquote, healthy. I cook most of my meals. I absolutely cannot lose weight. I walk 10,000 steps. And that's the thing. Like, well, you're going to have to dive deeper. Like, healthy is way too arbitrary. You're going to have to then start tracking. And
most is just a little bit more than half.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, I cook 6 out of my 10 meals. Well, the other 4 are out to eat.
Could
that
be
are
a
10
fucking
times the calories.
Yeah, calorie nightmare. Calorie nightmare. Like, I had a fucking ice cream sandwich on Sunday night that I actually logged. It was 70 grams of fat, and it was fucking this big. That's all it was.
One of those fat boys?
It was a cinnamon type of whatever cookie, and then it was like almond brittle ice cream.
Can we dive into this a second? Did you go out to get it? Did you have it door dashed? Was this at your house that you?
I had it delivered.
Store?
I had it delivered.
So lazy.
Isn't it unbelievable?
I can't.
CJ, it's unbelievable.
No, the problem is the baked bear that I like to go to.
How
is this
much
one.
Did you get other things delivered? I love diving into this stuff with you. Did you get anything else delivered, or did you open an app just to have an ice cream sandwich?
No, 100%. 100%.
And now you pay for I don't have to pay for every delivery.
Well, dude, I'm a platinum member on Grubhub. I get this stuff delivered for free. Like,
well, free is that's how much a month do you pay to get it for free?
I forgot what their subscription fee is. I think it's under $10 a month.
$10. Okay, so that makes it much. You're like, I have to get my money's worth, so you order all the time. Do you ever feel weird? Like, do you ever feel guilty? Like, I would feel weird. Like, I just made this guy leave his house to go to this place to get an ice cream sandwich.
No, you know what I'm doing? I'm doing what you're not doing, which is stimulating the economy.
I'm gonna say you're giving people jobs.
I single-handedly am bringing up the unemployment rate in California while everybody else on the left and the right can't figure out the job problem. I've figured it out for you. If we're going to have all of this obesity, let's put it to work. Order all your food, put drivers on the road delivering it to your doorstep so you can just get fatter and fatter. And at least our economy will start to explode and our GDP will go up as our obesity climbs and climbs. And at least we'll be able to counter one problem with the other problem.
I deleted DoorDash from my phone in a very low moment during COVID when my Chinese and ice cream people came at the same time. And I felt like I was cheating on someone. I was like, oh my God.
Did they meet each other? I was like, what's up, Rob?
I was like, oh, okay.
This Cassie woman is ordering again.
You know that they both have to be like, oh God, what's this thing going to be behind the door when I open it? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, imagine you're like, oh geez, we got a situation behind this door.
We both roll up at the same time.
Yeah, and then you open it and they're like, oh, this is strange.
Don't worry.
Somebody in like a moo-moo.
Don't worry, I'll be throwing this up later. It's fine.
Oh, Jesus. It's not disorder. It's called discipline. Around.
Yeah. I have controlled bulimia. It's absolutely fine.
Jesus.
It's a new class of disorder that I've
That's something I
developed.
never, even with all like the weight shaming I grew up with, I also remember a memory of me sitting in the corner of my room, like vowing that I was going to become anorexic, like to get my dad back. I was like, that's it. This is the moment. And like fucking 7 minutes later, I was like, I'm going to.
No, I like food. I like food too much. I'm not going to stop eating. Well, and that's the thing is,
He'll pay for it. No.
It's a problem too for the younger generation with being able to get food delivered to them. I mean, like when we were younger, we couldn't get food if we wanted to.
Yep.
Until we got a license. Now, I mean, these kids are.
I remember distinctly
to do work, and the amount of, first of all, I don't know how these kids get money on this app, but like when I sit in Starbucks and I watch these high school kids flood in, or even middle school, they're spending $10 at Starbucks on these drinks that are just. Oh,
Yeah, it's like that fruit drink is like $7.50.
Is it really?
Like one of these little fruit. I'm like, this is just like a lemonade, and you're spending this much. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
That's insane. I remember when we were like 14 or 15, Burger King came out with something called the Extreme Burger. And it was this massive triple patty with like a spicy cheese sauce on it. And it was wrapped in this special tin foil with this cool logo on it. And my buddy and I think we lived about 2 miles away from the Burger King. And none of us can drive, obviously. And we walked. We walked both ways to get there. We would go there. We would walk to eat the burger. We'd eat it. We'd walk home.
You didn't shit yourself on the way home?
No, we would stay at the restaurant to make sure that if it was going to hit you, we would shit at the bathroom at Burger King. Fuck it, use their toilet. And we would do that every day for like literally 5 days a week in the summertime for 3 straight weeks. We had an Extreme Burger every day. And I think eventually we looked up the calories just out of curiosity. It was north of 1,700 per burger. I mean, we're fucking 14. We're playing outside all day. We just started lifting weights. Like everything was going for us. But that's the thing is like now, what kid do you know that would walk 2 miles to get a piece of food?
I don't have to. So no one.
Nobody, not one. No adult would do that. So the problem isn't that the hyper palatable food is there. It's not only just there. It could be dropped off in your fucking lap in 2 seconds.
I still haven't gotten the apps. I've never had food delivered.
Well, you're slowly poisoning yourself with healthy food and just in greater quantities. And then
even groceries.
No, groceries I go and get, but we have had groceries delivered plenty of times.
You have?
I do Costco delivery for that, but I don't.
Fuck going to Costco.
Walmart, they have 37 aisles. There's one that's open, and the rest is self-checkout for 15 or less.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not fun going to the groceries. It's actually disincentivizing you to go to the grocery store. You're like, fine, I'll just get it fucking delivered.
Yeah, so much easier.
So going through this entire rigmarole, having this conversation, talking about the implications of potential disordered eating because you're putting something on a scale, in your opinion, how do you stop or how do you prevent children from having those issues? And what kind of conversation should parents be having when it comes to what they're doing on their weight loss journey with their kids?
I just think, and I'm not super at communication. It's something I have to work on till I'm going to die. Communication is not easy for me, but it's so important. And even today, I put up on my story, my kids had a little bowl of Fruity Pebbles and hard-boiled egg whites for breakfast. They obviously wanted the Fruity Pebbles. Pick your battles, mom, right? Like, okay, yeah, it's not the best choice. I own up to that, but I'm also not perfect. But we balanced it with a protein. And like I talk about proteins and how they make you strong and how carbs give you energy and they need to like be multiple things on a plate. And, you know, my kids do have mac and cheese. They do have chicken nuggets. They do have Fruity Pebbles, but they also have the egg whites on the side. Their chicken nuggets are not from McDonald's. They're the bare ones. When they do have pasta, I throw some beef in it. So I don't necessarily like label foods awful and good. And again, also don't get me wrong, I definitely slip and I'm like, well, that's crap. You know, like that comes out of my mouth. I'm not like perfect with communication, but we try and make sure they understand like what they're getting from those foods, right? Our kids are active. They go to gymnastics, they go to soccer. So we want to make sure they have energy for those sports and they see mommy and daddy eating a lot. And my kid calls me out all the time. Like, how are you done already? Like, how do you have so many bowls? I'm like, well, I always eat my dinner. Like I love food. I will never shame them for eating, you know, a lot. I won't ever make them finish their plate, but then, you know, they can't ask, like, there's no snacks. If your belly hurts from dinner, then there's no snacks after that, unless it's fruit. But I just think keeping an open line of communication and being a good role model. Like, they don't see me on the drive-through line to Taco Bell. I do that when they're
You do
sleeping.
that. That's what I was going to say. I do that at lunch at work.
But again,
by myself, and I cry in the car.
them. And I have a ton of clients that, like, I love seeing, like, when they're telling me, like, my daughter saw me weighing something today and her friend asked. I had a client once, like, text me and be like, my daughter had her friend over and she saw me weighing my chicken breast for my salad or something. And the friend was like, why is your mom doing that? And the daughter responded like, oh, it's to make sure she eats enough of her protein so she has energy for the day. And I was like, fuck yeah. Like, that's an amazing example. And this woman is very overweight and she's obviously still doing a great job showing her daughter what but the fact that the daughter spoke up with enough confidence and knowledge, and I think she's in 6th grade, not even, to tell her friend that without even, not embarrassed of mom, nothing. I just thought that was so amazing. And also, I always wonder too, like, glass house, like these people that are commenting that tracking food and weighing food is a eating disorder. Like, you never had a beer in front of your kids? Like, have you never, like, called someone an asshole when you're driving on the street? Like,
this is like their moral high ground, like this one topic.
Right.
It is.
Because it's something that they're struggling with or they struggled
Right.
with before. I mean, that's the only reason. I mean, it's, when you read the comments on that post, some people are saying not at all. It's because it wasn't an issue for them. The other people are saying it is a problem because it was an issue for them, which goes back to all the nuance of all the find what works for you. But for the average person who is struggling with their weight, they're struggling with nutrition or any of that stuff, this is just a great tool. I think we probably all agree it's probably the best tool to get started. And then you start being able to be a little bit more intuitive if that's the road you wanted to go down.
Yeah. I also, it kind of ruffles my feathers. And when newer clients that you kind of know are going to have a harder time and they tell you that tracking doesn't make them feel good, like it triggers them. And I'm like, it can't trigger you that, like, you're massively overweight. Like,
how's your waistband making you feel?
Right. Like, it's not triggering you enough to stop eating.
Yeah.
So what is it triggering? Because enough. Like, you just don't want to fucking do it. Like, don't pretend that it's like upsetting you. You just don't want to do it. Because if it was really that upsetting, then you wouldn't be eating. Or
it's upsetting you because it's reminding you of how out of control you were. I mean, that's all. It's like, I shouldn't have to be doing this. What's wrong with me? And that's the kind of stuff that people are thinking in their head. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with you, but this is the situation you got in. And it's okay.
Right. Look at the world's richest people. I'm sure they budget. I'm sure they have balance sheets. Like, and they're very successful. Look at the world's fittest people. They also track calories. So it is something you should be doing. Yeah.
And how many of the richest people went broke multiple times in the past? So it's like, okay, if you messed up your body in the past or you failed attempts multiple times, if you're still trying, then that means it is clearly something that you want. So let's go all in maybe for a period of time, be open to that stuff. But the narrative that we have about things are going to keep us stuck and not allow us to ever get anywhere.
I think the word disorder and I think the word trigger is becoming very overly used. And I think it's being used in such a poor context because people don't understand the magnitude of the word disorder. People don't really it's almost like all these people that are just like, I love you, man. I love you. You're my boo. I love you. You're my best friend. Like, love is a very strong word. Let's be careful how we throw that around. Disorder is a very strong word. Let's be careful how we throw that around. Like, people are it actually diminishes the people who have real eating disorders and real problems who are actually on the cusp of death very soon because they're either malnourished or because they're throwing up their food or because they restrict themselves to the point where they're eating nothing. And if you look at a real anorexic, I mean, I could pull up multiple pictures on the internet that show you emaciated women who weigh 86 pounds who have to be put into actual clinics, inpatient, to be fed intravenously to get their weight back up. These are people with disorders. You not having self-control or self-respect enough to be able to monitor your own behavior, and then you stand in front of the cupboard at night because you have no structure and then continuously overeat, doesn't indicate a disorder. It indicates the fact that you haven't been able to actually remedy your identity or your values or your standards for yourself. And you keep saying things like, I want to lose weight or I'm unhappy, but then there's no actual action plan put into place or there's no level of consistency. And the first sign of resistance that you meet towards something not going your way, you completely revert back to old shitty habits that got you into this position in the first place. So CJ, when you're dealing with these types of folks, because we all come about them, and then it's a struggle for us too, listeners. Like, we as coaches want to respect our scope of practice and we want to make sure that we're not coloring outside the lines. But let's be honest, a lot of people are coming to us with suspected eating problems or body image issues or relationship with food issues. And technically, those are mental health problems that should not be our responsibility. But how the fuck can we do our job if we don't address those things? So for you, how do you tackle those problems?
I think kind of like you said, in the sense where we actually have to get down to is it actually a disorder? Like, where are we on the scale here? Like, do you have disordered eating, or do you just want something and not want to work on it? Like, it's also like, I think in the school area, the word bully, blown out of proportion, hurts the people that actually are getting bullied. The word anxiety, who actually has it? Who's actually nervous? The word, like, just again, nerves, like no one can be nervous anymore. You're either calm or you're anxious. Like there's just no middle ground. So I think diving into where you are on the spectrum of, do you have a binge disorder? Or again, are you bored and find yourself in the pantry? So I think asking the right questions, having people, and I'm very accessible like you as a coach. So I ask them, like, when these things happen, reach out to me. Let's look at the environment that's going on. Like when you find yourself binging, take a second, text me. Like, where were you before it? What were you doing? Oh, were you sitting on the couch watching Netflix and now you're in your pantry? That's not a binge. That's your bored eating. Like, did your mom call and is she nasty to you? And then you found yourself deep in Oreos. Okay. That's not a binge. That's emotional eating. So I think just realizing their surroundings, their environment a little bit more, what triggers these certain disorders or binges, then you can do a lot more on, addressing the issue. And I don't want to diminish it, but 99% of the time, none of these people really have binge disorders or, emotional eating that's not. And I think they're just, again, they're safe excuses. No one argues with those.
Well, and they're validated. There's a ton of support in that community now to where if you express that this is a problem, instead of being offered solutions to the problem, there's this immediate level of like, let's just accept it.
Right. It's okay.
And it's okay. And it's not a problem. And if you just love yourself a little bit more, you're not going to have these issues.
Well, the comparison to the anxiety, like with your students and stuff, is spot on. Most people don't have anxiety disorder. You're a fucking teenager. Every one of you experiences anxiety. Very different than having diagnosed anxiety. Yeah. Today, and Ram talks about it a lot, in today's food environment, food culture, and access to so much more crap, it's very difficult to have some perfectly healthy relationship with food, whatever that means. Yeah. So I think it does. It allows you to put this diagnosis on yourself where now the responsibility is not on you. Well, I can't control myself in this situation because I have anxiety. I need to go to the decompression room and sit on the couch.
We have a calm room.
Yeah, we have the decompression room.
Called, I think, a peace room.
These are real things.
These are real rooms in schools where you can go to decompress. We have a decompression room. So
what happens? It's just a room with a chair.
You just sit there, and we have had, I don't know if you have, CJ, students fucking in them and getting caught.
Yep.
That's exactly what I would do. Or
they go to the peace room.
I would be masturbating in there because nobody would actually fuck me in high school. But
clearly. Yeah. So but then when it's the same thing with the food, it's like we put this label on ourselves, and now I can't help it. Therefore, my only option is to accept it. And if I were to try to track anything, that's just only going to make this disorder worse. If I were to try to control my anxiety, that's just going to make it worse. It's an avoidant technique. It's like, no, you're breathing. You're learning to self-regulate.
Exactly.
It's not an avoidance
I used to get
technique.
sick to my stomach on report card day, because I was nervous to show my parents.
Because of the beatings?
Yeah. Oh, my German dad mitts. Oh my God. My husband always says, like, when he first met my dad, he was holding a coffee cup and his hand was just engulfed around it.
It looked like an espresso cup?
Oh my God. My dad's hands. They're huge.
So you got the back of the hand and you got smacked and choked.
I had to sit in the middle of them at dinner in case, like, that I could get it from both sides. I'm like, come on. Like, one is enough. Like, I don't need it from...
I got the
I'll
wooden
never forget
spoon.
the day my mom, this is off topic, but like, I finally realized my mom is little. Like, I did not get her body. I have my dad's stout football body. My mom's like 5'7", lean, of course. And
you fucking hate her.
He like pushed me, right? And I was like, wait a second. I'm fucking double your weight. And I pushed her back and I forgot my dad was home.
Oh boy.
And the fear. I was like, oh shit, I forgot that you are, and oh my God, was my life ended. But that was a quick realization that no matter how big you are, you don't touch your mother.
No,
I remember holding my mom's wrists one time. I was probably 16, 17 years old. She's hitting me and she would like break blood vessels in her wrists because if she didn't go get the wooden spoon. I'm like, Mom, it doesn't hurt anymore. And I'm like holding her wrist. And my dad, all grown up, would snap the bell. One of these days, and I'm like, no, we're not. Because their rule was like the mom beats us because that way she can go all in. It's not going to hurt as much if dad does. But I got the belt. I got the belt right across the face. Twice across the face and across the neck. I was like, my back was to me, comes into the room and just whoosh, whoosh, and my mom freaks, and they're going to listen to this and love it. They're going to feel traumatized. And I just remember turning around, looking right at him like, what? And just stared at him. And my mom was like, what are you doing? And took him out of the room. And then I just broke down crying.
Yeah.
I felt real tough for about 3 seconds when I sent her flying, and then my life was ended.
So another thing that got brought up during that post was that they were taught the woman that was the emotional eating expert also went on to say that there's an overwhelmingly growing body of evidence to suggest that we are not in control of our weight.
Yeah, I saw that part. Yeah.
And I breathed the same exact way when I heard.
Yeah, because you have let go of any control of your decisions, and you have let go of all of your self-control. So therefore, you are not in control of your weight. I agree.
Yeah. But can you imagine, like, when you hear that as a pedestrian who doesn't have our knowledge or our experience, you immediately think that I literally have no control. Like, I'm going to be powerless over food for the rest of my life. CJ's power just went out. She just texted me, but
that's her power, like in the house.
Yeah, her power.
I saw like she was frozen, but I just figured maybe she could hear. But I'm like, I haven't heard her say for a second, so maybe. So a little bit back.
But you know what I mean? Like that's such a scary and shitty narrative to share with people, because that's taking all the power away from them, and it's telling them that no matter what your best effort is, or how hard you try, or how much mindfulness you practice, you'll never be able to control your weight. So
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how anybody can say a sentence like that out loud. You have no control over your weight. I don't know.
And then also referencing evidence. Like, what evidence do we have of that?
Yeah, and how damaging is that to everybody who's struggling with their weight?
And it's basically
feeling like a complete failure. And then why the hell even bother trying to be healthy at all if the only thing we're talking about is weight? So now I might as well just eat whatever, because we're not discussing the health aspect of our food decisions.
Yeah.
It's all revolving around weight, which is a problem as well, because when you're not looking at it from just purely like how do you feel? What kind of energy do you have? How's your sleep? How's your mood, mindset, all that kind of stuff? You're not discussing any of those things in terms of food decisions. And now you're being told you have no control of your weight. Why the hell would I eat anything healthy?
Well, so interestingly enough, too, very further along that same exact point, I had a woman today reach out based on one of those stories, and she expressed her frustration with her own journey, and then she wrote me like a 3-paragraph thing about what her frustrations actually were. Like, what is she frustrated about? And she referenced it very specifically. I remember this standing out because I thought it was a huge problem in her thinking. Well, I cut out alcohol for 4 months and I saw no reduction on the scale. Okay. Did you get any other benefits? Oh, yeah. Well, my skin cleared up and I started to sleep better and I wasn't as anxious and my stress went down and my digestive health felt a lot better. I didn't feel as bloated and I was recovering from workouts better. Okay. So it sounds like reducing alcohol actually was a positive benefit for you, right? Well, yeah, but I didn't lose any weight. Okay. So the only reason why you behave in any sort of way around food or around exercise is for the promise of fat loss. Yeah, that's the disorder.
It would be like quitting smoking meth and then for 4 or 5 months and be like, my teeth didn't go back to being white again.
Yes.
I guess I'll just keep smoking.
I'll just go back to smoking meth, because what's the point? I'm not getting my teeth aren't getting any better. So fuck it. I'll just keep smoking. And that's the disorder narrative. That's why people are in the trouble that they're in, because they expect adjustments to nutrition and adjustments to exercise to yield a physique response. And they don't consider the quality of life benefits, and they don't consider the improvements in their lifestyle and how they feel. They just expect that if I change my eating, then it has to directly result to my weight. And that's what this woman was saying about her distaste with this other woman's post. She's like, well, her entire Instagram page is about fat loss. I'm like, bitch, she's a fat loss coach.
Yeah.
That's her fucking platform. Her job is to help people lose weight. The reason why she's putting magnitude on weight and body image as often as she is because she's a busy mom who lost weight, who's now helping other busy moms lose weight. It's not because that's the only purpose for her to lose weight. It's because she wants to feel better, because when you lose weight, your quality of life improves and your mental health improves because you get more confident and you start honoring your own promises to yourself. And I think that this just gets completely lost in this disordered eating community that's gotten so strong and so supportive of one another, because all they're doing is they're just perpetuating complacency.
Yeah. Let's see if Casey's fourth attempt at getting back into this conversation works.
She's back.
It was quicker than I expected.
How did you lose? Where are you? In fucking Kansas?
No, there's like a fucking
north.
heat storm right now. I don't even know what's going on.
Are you in New York?
Heat storm?
Yeah, I'm in Long Island.
Okay.
What the hell's a heat storm?
It has been hot. So Ram just had
Sorry.
What's that called when you're like auditioning for a play and you have to give like a long speech?
A monologue?
A monologue, yeah.
Monologue.
A monologue.
Ram never.
Never. He had a nice monologue about how the disordered eating community is, using that phrase lightly, is having this power, this dialogue to take all power and control away from people, and just accepting, and it's only focusing on just weight loss and ignoring all the other aspects of health, which is why we would be cutting out alcohol or reducing it or eating healthier and all that kind of stuff. We get so stuck on the scale, which I agree with. And it's crazy how people think it's got to be one or the other. You know, it's like accept your body and love your body, or you're obsessed with trying to get skinnier. No, you can do both. You can love your body with where it's at, which I'm a big fan of, everybody loving where you're at, and then continuing to pursue in a healthier direction. They both can coexist. This idea that it's one or the other is crazy.
Yeah, like there was no way when I was pushing 200 pounds after college that I wasn't healthy. And like, forget about the weight. My parent, nothing about what I was doing was good for my health. So forget about the scale, forget about, not fitting in clothes at all. But it does go together. I know there's maybe those like outliers that are overweight and still healthy in the moment, but I made this correlation to smoking too. Like, we shit on people that smoke, but people that make choices to make themselves so unhealthy and so overweight, we love and support. It's wild to me. Like,
yeah, imagine if because I'm old enough. Aram, you're probably right on that border. I'm trying to think. You were probably in college when you couldn't smoke inside places. I don't know. In Jersey, I was probably 22.
I think it was before that, even that they stopped the ability. Yeah. I remember when I was doing a lot of coke in my early 20s, I started smoking.
I never heard that you did that back then.
That was always allowed inside, though.
Dabbled in it, but I started to smoke cigarettes to try to be more social, B, get out of that.
It was easier to find coke dealers as well if you had a cigarette.
It was, and it was also easier to try to meet women, but I was never very good at meeting women when I was.
Because you always bummed the cigarette off them. They knew you were a loser right away. What's going on?
Give me a light and you'd lean in.
But no, well, for me, it was whatever that age, but it was like probably 22, because I remember going out to bars and everybody smoked inside.
Yeah.
So maybe like a year later, like 22 in Jersey, there was no more smoking inside. But imagine if they just did that with overweight people. That'd be terrible. Sorry, get on the scale.
Yeah.
There's countries where you got to get on the scale to get on a plane.
Did
my
you see?
My bag's got to weigh no more than 50 pounds. But
did you ever see that thing in that they have to walk through in China sideways?
No, it sounds amazing.
They have like 4 different sections, and they're different widths, and you have to like step through it sideways with your arms down, and you can suck in as much as you want, but if you don't get through the barriers, or if the barriers touch you at all in the front, you're like prohibited from doing certain things. I saw it. I mean, it could be complete bullshit. I saw it on like Facebook or something, but what a genius reminder of how to be able to get your shit together. Because at what point does it become a health consequence? At what point does it become a mental health consequence, to where you're so miserable and you're so upset that it leads into further exacerbation of your problem and of your emotional eating, to the point where 200 pounds, which might not be a big deal today, turns into 300 pounds a year from now. And now you're on the cusp of killing yourself with food, like in the movie The Whale.
And people around you. Like when I think about people I know that have like very overweight siblings that are upset about it, like their parents are distraught over it too. Like it's not just you. If you're so overweight and so unhappy and so miserable, other people in your life care. Like there's people that attaches to. So just like secondhand smoke, like it's not just you. You know, if it was just you, I feel like I could deal with it a little bit better, right? It's like I always tell my students, like if you're gonna fuck around in class, sleep, because then you're just fucking up yourself. I don't really care. Take a nap. Don't disrupt everyone else who's actually trying to work. You know, like if you want to, die in a hole by overeating Cheetos, fine. But your mother is distraught over this. Your siblings are. People are trying to help you, and it's not just you. So that's like also my issue. If it was just one person in their house doing it to themselves, to each their own, right? But that's usually not the case.
Well, because everybody thinks that like the smoking and drinking, they'll say that's different because that does affect. But it's like, no, this stuff does affect. Yeah, you're not smoking in your kid's face in the car with the windows up, but the stuff that you're consuming, you are providing to your kid, and you're creating these same things.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's no different when it comes to that.
There's no way that it's just it's not. There's a whole circle around you that gets affected by your choices. And just like tracking on the scale, watching your mom binge at night is the same exact, like not a same
like
exact,
that,
because one's better, but
yeah, the mom who's always providing stuff or binging at night and this and that can also, who's like, we don't worry about weighing food. We're not concerned about this. Hey, like nothing's good and bad. And if that's the message, that could lead to a kid being anorexic because they're afraid to be like that.
Right.
Like there is no perfect way. We're all just doing our best in the way that we can. The way you described you with your kids, it's very similar with me, with what I'm doing with Hendrix of, have a bowl of cereal. Yeah, you can have some ice cream. Yeah, we'll get pizza. But we're having conversation about like, we got to have protein. We're trying to get stronger. And he's at that age, he's insecure with his body. He's not really lean. And he's got that body fat and he hates it. And I'm just like, hey, it's okay. Like you're strong. And he wants to start lifting. But I think the conversations that we've had have never made him feel bad. There could have been a little bit more structure with some stuff that I don't have all control over with what stuff comes into the house. But I think that that's going to be something where he's going to now work hard and he's going to develop a certain kind of mindset around working and seeing the benefit of it with like a body transformation versus always being a lean kid.
Yeah, like that resiliency is a good thing too.
Yeah,
so he's like you said, like no kids have resiliency, and the fact that I was the chubbier friend, which again is hysterical because I wasn't like it did like give me some resiliency. I did appreciate working out a little bit more, and like you said, a bowl of cereal. Like I also see like the other kids whose parents are insanely strict. Like the only lollipop they can have are like those organic vitamin C things. And like I have nieces that are like that, and they fucking like they're like little pack animals when they get into someone houses. They like sneak shit in their bags. I'm like,
and then
what are we doing here? Like,
I mean, I have a client with that. Then they grow up and they're like, no one's going to tell me I can't have that. No one's going to tell me I've had enough.
Yeah,
because they grew up always being told, okay, you've had enough, and now they're an adult. It's like nobody's going to tell me. And then
that's what kind of happened to me after college. Like I was like,
you went fucking nuts.
Yeah, tell us about bouncing back from that. Like how long
literally
how long were you down that road before you were like, I can't keep doing this, I need to change something?
I mean, it was decent. I think I was like 22 to like 20. It was over like 2 or 3 years, and it wasn't. And I was always an athlete. That was the thing. Like even when I was hitting like 190 pounds, I was still killing it on the beach volleyball court. So I never really I was always able to move, but I just like I looked in the mirror one day and I saw a picture and I was like, oh my, and I moved out of my house. Like once I went to college, I never came back. Like that's what, so I didn't have my parents.
When did you meet your husband?
Like a year after I kind of started my fitness journey. I landed into CrossFit. So he never knew me fat.
Makes sense.
And he will never, like it took me, I only posted a transformation picture like a couple months ago because I was like, nope, no one's going to know. I don't care if my business doesn't grow. No one's ever going to know that I was like chubby.
Ooh, that could be a good reel for you. That audio clip. No one's going to know. No one's going to know. And it's you just working out. And then it's like a quick flash to you heavy and it comes back to you in shape.
We should have invited your husband on and talked to him about how he would have never even looked your way if you were 200
Oh, he wouldn't have. I mean, we definitely had met each other because I was slamming drinks in the bar that he bartended at and he didn't ever hit on me. It's so weird. I don't know what happened. So
And then you stopped going for a while. You go back, and he's like, "Hey, what's your name?" And you're like,
yeah,
"I've been coming here for 3 years, you piece of shit."
literally, I was like, been here for 3 summers in a row. What the fuck? Yeah, that
Sorry,
was great.
I was hoping that I didn't need as much of you to love.
Oh, but it took me a while, and I went down when I started to lose weight. I check off every fucking box of juice cleanses, over cardio, 90-minute AMRAPs. Like I went through, intermittent fit, every Weight Watchers, Hydroxycut, hiding it in my fucking dresser drawer. Like I hit all the check boxes of fad diets because I was clueless. I never really knew, and it took me a while, but then I do owe a lot to CrossFit because that brought me back into the competitive world. But they also talk about food. Like if you're a CrossFit coach, they talk about macros. I never knew what the fuck that was. So I have that now changed my mindset on, the benefits of CrossFit as you get older, but it is for sure the first reason that nutrition actually got brought up. And it took me a long time to let go of more sweat, harder workouts doesn't equal more success. Like that was a very hard concept for me to get rid of. Even though I was preaching it to others, I was killing myself in my garage, lights off, no fans, 60-minute workouts, and now I have fucking PCOS and no adrenals. Shocker. But it is a hard. It's not something that you can expect someone to do overnight, but just the open-mindedness and the ability to learn and be a little resilient, I think goes a long way.
Well, and just I think the language that you use is so powerful. Like this woman that was telling me that after quitting alcohol for 4 months, she saw no weight change on the scale, and she made reference to multiple things multiple times. Well, I have a carb addiction, and it's because I'm Italian. I'm like, no, I know plenty of Italians that aren't addicted to carbs at all, and there's really no such thing as a carb addiction. You just
Right.
enjoy carbs because you're a fucking human being. And then she's like, well, I also have a history of alcoholism in my family, and it makes me susceptible. I'm like, listen, every single man in my family is either currently an alcoholic or dead because of alcoholism. You don't have to go down these paths, and if you keep attaching yourself to these narratives, that's exactly the outcome that you're going to get.
Right.
So as opposed to saying, this is it and this is what it is, I am a emotional eater. Okay, cool. That's the badge of honor that you get to wear forever, and people will support you for it, and there's no help for you at all other than just support. Or I'm a binge eater. Great. So that means that you're just going to be locked into a life full of overeating constantly. And why do you overeat? Maybe because you don't fucking eat all day and then you overeat at night. Maybe it's a systematic problem. It's a process-based issue. It's got nothing to do with the fact that you said you're a binge eater. It's you binge eat because you don't eat all day. You're supposed to then overeat because that's what your body's asking for.
Right.
So all of these identity issues that people constantly convince themselves of is how they get wrapped up in these problems. And what you just said, CJ, is be open-minded to some fucking degree, whether it's being coachable or listening to other people who have succeeded where you haven't. And instead of seeing well, fuck them, they're being so restrictive and they're doing all these disordered eating things.
They don't get it, right?
Maybe they figured it out and you haven't. And by them doing it, it shows you a mirror that you don't want to look at.
Right. People love the label themselves, and it's the same thing going on with my students in high school. They love those labels, and again, I think it goes back to what we were saying in the sense where they're accepted and they're not challenged, and people don't say no, you again, who would be the bitch that was no, you don't have anxiety, you're just nervous, besides me, right? No one says that, or I can't lose weight because my kids have too many sports. You chose to have kids, you chose to sign them up. No one really says that. They go, I know life is so hard with kids. It's the acceptable societal excuse. So they use it, and it's bullshit. Again, you're making all these choices for yourself.
So as a woman who expresses this level of tough love in your practice and to people around you and on your social media, do you ever get shit for being like this?
Oh yeah. I mean, for
You
sure.
do.
But I do think now I'm kind of finding a tribe that gets it.
Yeah.
And I'm never complete bitch, right? If
No, of course not.
That
you're just selectively a twat every once in a while.
Sometimes and behind their backs. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, of course.
But I get that things are, life is hard. But right before we get on here, I had someone be I was like, oh, how are you? I'm checking in on them. And they're busy like always. And I'm like, yeah, everyone is. Enough with that word. Who's not if they're an adult? Who's not fucking busy? If you're an adult who works with kids, even not kids, if you work, you're fucking busy. enough.
Sometimes
What else? Dive
even,
into that a little bit more.
Well, even too, it's like, how are you? Busy as always. I didn't ask that. I asked, how are you?
Yeah.
Right,
How are you?
Sometimes it's like people just need to be reminded, like, I'm actually asking how you are. How are you?
Right.
Right. They have to like defend themselves the second you ask them, like because you know what's coming next.
Yeah.
I didn't track. Oh, okay. I was just
Yeah,
asking
yeah.
how your day was.
Yeah.
Like that's fine.
Yeah.
But the
Well,
busy, I can't.
I always love the validation. Like sometimes I'll have like people submit a check-in form, and you'll see like maybe there'll be a spike in weight. Maybe it's a couple of pounds from week over week because they had an ice cream
sandwich delivered.
Multiple meals out over the weekend. They might have weighed themselves on a Monday or a Tuesday where that water retention hadn't spilled out yet. And then there's this immediate validation inside the check-in form, like, well, it's my period week, or or I had multiple. Like, you don't need to validate or justify that your weight spiked. Your weight's supposed to go up and down. That's how it works. I'm not worried about it at all as your coach. If anything, I'm happy that you recognize that you were able to have some freedom over the weekend. You didn't completely restrict, but let's at least dive into it. Could you have made better choices? Could you have planned for the day better? Were you well prepared heading into those meals out? Were they a free for all? Were they monitored at all? So instead of like justifying that I put on 2 pounds, which you didn't actually gain 2 pounds, it just moved up 2 pounds. Let's talk about a strategy for why this doesn't continue to occur, and you don't continuously have to sit there and justify some fucking weight.
It's Brad Pitt in Fight Club. How's that working out for you?
Yeah.
It's like things are crazy. Went out to eat. Didn't track. How's that working out for you? It did. The scale's up. Okay. So do you want to keep doing that?
This one might be dicey for you guys to talk about, but like the period one bothers me too. Like every 4 weeks now, we're going to have one period week. I'm like, all right, this happens every fucking month. How about we figure out a way to navigate this week instead of having, 12 weeks out of the year where it's a shit show.
Just don't complain about it. Like, it's like, it's my period week. So the scale's up like it always is.
Right.
And
it's expected. It's expected at this point.
Yeah, not every, but that's too like people are in the habit. They're in the habit of complaining. It's so easy,
and it's an acceptable excuse.
Yeah, and I'm sure like with you saying you love when there's like chaos and it's busy and all that kind of stuff. You have probably, maybe you're getting better at it. Have gotten potentially, because I know I had over the years past. I'm trying to get better with it. When people are like, "How's it going?" Oh, things are crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like this little complaining type thing, but it's like I'm not, but it sounds like I am. And it's like I'm all over the place. I'm stretched so thin and I'm the martyr, which is another form of being a victim. And I don't know if you fall into that trap at all but it's like I'm creating my own chaos. And then I'm sitting there going, oh, things are crazy. It's like I'm just in the habit of doing that. People are just in the habit of complaining.
Right. It's just wild. And again, being around the females, and maybe it's weird for me to be one and like hate the period complaint, hate the kid thing. But again, like these things, it's like when people complain about the holidays, they come up every fucking year. They're not a surprise anymore. So let's figure out a way.
I think it was last year I posted that. I'm like, here's a tip for the holidays. Don't fucking have any. Like, I don't have any. This is nothing new. This happens every single. Do whatever you want.
Right. It just boggles my mind. Like I'm so sick of reading. Well, it's a period week, so I had 64 bowls of ice cream. Like, do we really need? Like, come on. Like,
do you think that contributes to all the discomfort you're having during your period?
Right.
Well, and that's
not just from your period. It's from the 64 bowls of fucking ice cream.
And now you've actually created an entire system, right? Like the idea of cycle syncing was born from these women complaining about this problem, which then created a lovely light bulb business opportunity for all these coaches to then capitalize on. Well, let's sync your cycle. So let's eat a certain way because it's not complicated enough for you to put food on a scale and log it. Let's also add the fact that on certain days you're going to eat this many carbs, and on certain days you're going to eat this many carbs, because if you don't perfectly time your carbs with your cycle, you won't be able to live and you won't be able to move out of bed, and you'll have to be relegated to an actual apartment by yourself, or you'll slowly die until the next cycle comes up.
And only 1 week out of the month can you actually lift, because the other week before your cycle, you can only dance. And
right,
the other
you're
week
not allowed
after your cycle, you just have to lay in bed. Like, are we kidding me? Like, maybe it is for some women, but if I didn't know I was on it, I couldn't fucking, and I'm lucky, right? I don't really have, like, I'm one of the few people, like, maybe it's just because I'm like this always.
Well, you have PCOS, by the way, which also should disrupt all of your natural cycling issues. And why do you feel good? Is because you take care of yourself.
Right. Like before I got pregnant, I was getting my period every other week. You imagine
Jesus.
I texted you every other week and I was like, oh, it's my period week. Fuck it. Period week. Fuck it. Like, no.
Wow.
Whoa, my lights going out.
That would
Did
be
she cut out?
very, I think so.
She cut out. She probably just got her period and it blew the internet out.
No, my period. My internet connection goes out every time I get my period.
Every time. It just came up again. But that's like a perfect example of like how you're taking these protocols for elite people, for elite athletes, and then, oh, that's what I need to be doing.
Yep.
It's like, no, you're not elite. You don't need to be doing that, So, yeah, it's wild. Should we wait for her to get back on and ask her our final question, which I'm sure she knows, or should we
I just told her, she said her power went out again. So we'll see what we can.
We can wrap it up. I'm sure right now people are like checking out anyway, listening. It's over our traditional time.
All right. I just told her, never mind, we'll wrap up. So in summary, we speak, by the way, listeners, I know that this was a lot of soapboxing and a lot of talking at you and my usual level of mansplaining, which hopefully you love and have come accustomed to, but it comes from a place truly of trying to empower you and trying to get you to understand that you have so much more control that you don't exhibit, that you're capable of exhibiting, that you don't have to be a victim and that you don't have to fall prey to narratives and fall prey to complacency and be completely out of control, because that's where most of our problems stem from. So just because things like dieting and discipline and work have become dirty words in our society, it doesn't mean that they have to be that way for you. And if you adopt some of these reasonable practices that we're all talking about and some of these consistent measures of eating on a certain time schedule and eating about the same amount of meals a day and staying ahead of your schedule by a little bit by being prepared and making more reasonable choices while dining out, are you going to get the dream body that you've always wanted? Maybe not, but at least are you going to start to improve your quality of life to some degree and get yourself out of this pattern of frustration? I think you will. And if you get nothing out of this episode other than at least being able to have some renewed sense of responsibility, then I think we've done our job.
If there was one thing on this topic, bye.